Welcome, everybody. We are here with Chida Warren at the Leisureland
Yes.
Senior Community in San Diego, California. Chida is currently running for District 4 City Council woman, and we're going to talk a little bit with you about politics.
Yeah.
Not so much political in
Yeah.
regards to,
Yeah.
policy,
Yeah.
but one thing about politics is it
Mhm.
helps if you have passionate people on either side of the
Yeah.
island,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so for anybody out there, as policy and things become more passionate in the world, we're going to talk
Yeah.
and help those people kind of figure out how do they get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to start off a little bit, my first question is, if I am somebody who's looking and I want to get on city council or I want to be in politics,
Yeah.
is there a hierarchy? Is it easier to come in at the city council level? Am I coming in straight at mayor, or are there certain things that somebody should think about when they're trying to figure out their lane
Yeah.
and where they'll do the best good?
That's a great question. One thing I'm learning is that it's good to get involved at your level. And so you have town councils, you have planning groups. And so I feel like each stage of politics is broader representation of the stage below it.
Okay.
And so if you want to get involved, find out who the community groups are in your neighborhood, your community. Even getting a job at City Hall or working in your council office or your elected's office is really good because there's different levels to government. So you got to see which one works for you.
Yeah.
So the city council, assembly, the mayor's office, Senate, goes on and on, but you really got to find out what works for you and what you be doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I've got my group. I'm passionate about, I don't know, flooding in San Diego based off the last conversation.
Yes.
I'm very passionate about the eco structure and just
Mhm.
the safety of our communities. What's my next step? Do I have to file an application? Is there a petition that I have? How do I get my name in the pool of names that are the pool?
So each seat has a term limit. And so some elections or some seats are every 2 years, every 4 years. It really depends on what it is. You really have to know what your issue areas are going to be that you want to target. So like you said, whether it's environmental, there are a lot of core spaces and things that people focus on when they get into politics. So it could be homelessness, it could be housing, it could be environmental, it could be infrastructure, which is our streets, transportation, buildings. So find out what your thing is, what your niche is, and see how you can advocate. Sometimes people have more than one thing that they're into. Sometimes it's just one thing. Usually that niche can kind of guide you into the political space that you want to be in. But when it comes to an actual election, you have to look at what the election cycle is. So there is an application process.
Okay.
If you know you want to run for office, like for the city, you go to the city clerk's office. They have a whole tab on their website at the City of San Diego City Clerk's office on what to do to run for office. So you can go there. We have our county registrar of voters. They have information on the elections process. There's a lot of different elections. Depending on the political party that you're into, you have the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. They have elections within their groups. So you have
so
committees.
that was going to be my next question.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. It leads into it in regards to, so we know we have our independents and our Republicans and our Democrats. And I've heard of times where like people align issues in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One, how is it that you determine, like, what is the determining factor when putting your name on a ballot of where you would fall? And then do you think or feel that somebody, like I've heard of somebody leaning very heavily Democrat, but it was easier to get on the Republican side of the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Like how valid is that? Is that helpful? If I'm like, I just want to be in politics, I want to be in Washington making these decisions.
No, that's a good question.
And I fall somewhere in the middle. Do you know what is that determination? How do you know where to put yourself or how you get on that side?
My take on that is how you start is how you finish. You need to be true to yourself. If your values align more with democratic values, then that's the direction you need to go. If they're more Republican, that's the direction you should go. If they're independent, then stay in that lane. But I don't believe people should try to position themselves to fit a mold. You know what I'm saying? Be true to yourself and who your values are, and where the alignment happens, that'll guide you into where you need to be.
And it's funny because just in doing these podcasts and learning more about all the different avenues of business, because the point is not to tell people what to do, but to give them the education and knowledge that they need, that they can follow whatever.
Yeah.
But the running theme is that if you remain true to yourself, whatever it is, whether it's nonprofit, for-profit, whether it's politics, whether it's religion, government, whatever it is, that if you're truly staying true to yourself, then that's like your road to success, right? Okay, so now I know that I'm going to say independent because I feel like it's the least controversial to go with. So we're going to say I'm an independent. I found my niche. I have found my people. I'm going to put my application in. How complicated is the app? We're just going to go with in theory. Obviously, they're all different, but about how much, like how complicated and how much time can I expect to one dedicate to my application, and then how much time between application and possible fruition of knowing whether you're going to be on the Democratic ballot to see if you can make it to the next step, or like what is the time frame?
So we got in at a really awkward time because the seat was vacated in the middle of a term. And so we do have a primary election happening right now. And so once the seat was vacated officially, I think in December, the end of November, December is when the vacation happened, then that seat was open for people to apply to run. So you have to turn in your application. You have to qualify to be on the ballot. So the qualify means you have to get signatures to be on the ballot. So we needed 120 signatures, but we had to make sure we had signatures that exceeded that amount, because you might have people that'll sign and the signatures aren't valid. Meaning people can't read, they're not legible, or someone signed your petition but they didn't live in your area. So that's the thing. So after you get your signatures on your petition, then you have to submit those to the clerk's office, and then you have to pay a filing fee. Ours was $574. So we paid that, and they then go vet the signatures. We found out probably a couple days later that we qualified to be on the ballot. So we qualified on December 15th. We had about 2-3 weeks, I think, to get the signatures to be on the ballot. Once we qualified, there's a lot of different types of paperwork. So it's not just one application. Some of it's filled out in the beginning, some at the end. So you have different levels of paperwork, but then you have to build your team. You need a treasurer, consultant, campaign manager. So all those things are a part of it. Yes, that's a part of all of it. And you have to have a team that's going to work with you. And it's like trying on shoes.
So how do you find those team members?
There are very specific people that do this work, and they only surface when it's election season.
Time.
Gotcha. So you might not know who they are. So you got to be connected to folks that are going to be able to tell you, give you recommendations. It took me a few times and finally found the team that works for me. But that's the thing. You can't take everybody. Everybody's not for you. No, not at all. So you got to find out what you're looking for. But when it's that time,
they'll start popping up and reaching out to you.
Okay.
So now we're on our path. All right. We're on our ballot. We have our team. And the next thing is what we were kind of, I'm assuming, out doing today. We got to get these votes. San Diego's a big community. Even District 4 is.
District 4 has 147,000 residents.
Yeah, I was going to say District 4 is undoubtedly as large as some small towns. I mean, bigger than some small towns and as large as some small cities in the whole. So how do you decide this is a space that's going to be fruitful? This is a community that I think the time will be well spent, right? And time is always going to be a factor. You can't reach everybody all the time. What is part of your process in understanding, like, okay, this is where I should go today. This is where I should go spend this 2 hours.
You got to strategize. The community will tell you where you need to go. You have to, if you're going to represent a community, at least have some type of connection to it from the jump. So you can't just go in blindly and say, I want to represent. So you got to already kind of be in tune with what the issues are in that community. Then you got to find out who the decision-making groups are that speak on behalf of constituents. So you have your folks that are just doing their day-to-day, but you have groups that actually represent the day-to-day people that are more involved with local government. So those are the people you reach. You also reach the residents, but you also got to find out who the voters are. Not everybody in the area votes. So you want to make sure you're targeting your efforts to the people that do vote, engage with them.
Okay, so now let's think. We're there, we're getting votes, we're on the ballot. I know right now I happen to have a ballot sitting in my purse that I need to drop off. Now, and this is a side question for me because I've never actually mailed in a ballot. I've always gone in and either handed it in there or did it. No, not that I have any problem with it, but that's just what I've always done. So I have my ballot as a voter. Do I just go drop? Can I, in theory, just go drop that ballot off?
You can at the polls. So
on election day, or just any mailbox.
You can drop it off at any mailbox. And we are in a mail-in ballot season right now, so you can mail yours in. I personally like to drop mine off at the poll and watch it go in the box. So that's my thing.
Okay, so then, if we're in this season, when do you start hearing numbers as the anticipatee? I know that's not a word, but
so there's two ways. There's two ways. So in a traditional election, some groups will do polling, so they'll kind of get a temperature of how people are voting. For my election, we're not doing any polling. It's such a short window. It's March 5th, and we only had a couple months to campaign. So election night is when you start watching the numbers.
That's when you'll find out.
And so you'll see it like everyone else, and then it takes them. It could take a couple weeks to tally up all the numbers, depending on the amount. For our race, There's 3 people running, so either 51% of one person's going to get 51% of the vote, and they'll win right out for this particular race. If not, the top 2 candidates will go into a runoff, which will happen in June.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you might have another couple months at this.
Yeah.
Well, I think that answers most of the questions. I want to thank you for not only answering our questions, but having me join you. I wish you the best of luck. And, yeah, good job.
Thank you, Liv.
All right.